What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today we're going to talk about stop motion. This is an IFC Film slash Shutter release. It does have audio description, which was produced by Audio Eyes, written by Micah Grossman, and narrated by Rick Boggs. And for my blind fans out there today, I've got a black baseball cap on today, black sunglasses, and a Ghostbuster shirt. Semi-appropriate for a spooky movie, which I'm reviewing outside of spooky season. I'm sorry, there's only just so much I can cram into October. There's already a shit ton of releases. So, stop motion came out earlier this year, and I just didn't really bother to watch it. But for my consideration, I decided to watch it in case, year-end awards and stuff like that, and I vote for some groups, and maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's some there, and let's talk about that. I do want to get into spoilers, but I think I can give you like a cursory little glimpse at what this film is, and did I like it before I do that. So if you want to hear that, here's a little rundown. The film centers around a young woman who's taking care of her mother, who is a stop motion animation artist herself. And she's older and she's trying to finish this one last film. And something happens to where she's unable to finish the project. So things are sort of put on the daughter, but you sort of heard the daughter say that she doesn't have her own vision in terms of what type of film to make. She doesn't know what kind of film she would make if it was hers. Sort of a question she's asked towards the beginning of the film. And things sort of, I don't know, devolve from there. It's the best way I can say that without spoilers. It's a film that features stop motion, like figurines and claymation figurines, and there's a story, and you can probably guess maybe why this film is cool, why it stood out, why Shudder bothered to give this a theatrical release, because they do pick up a lot of films that don't get theatrical releases. So if you're wondering what the difference is, I would say yes, there's some interesting stuff that happens here as to why this would get a theatrical over some of the other films that did not or do not get theatrical releases. So with that, it's okay. I think some horror fans will like some of the concepts. I think it overplays its hand in terms of the gimmick, and we'll talk about that when I get into spoilers, which is also where I need to talk about the audio description, because the audio description is going to be specific to certain parts of the film. First of all, I want to touch on Micah Grossman real quick. Hi, Micah, in case you watch this video. We're just going to assume. I know sometimes narrators and people who work in audio description actually do watch my videos. I give you a pretty hard time for In a Violent Nature, which I stand by. This is actually really well done. I only had a couple times where I was like, I don't quite get it, or where I felt like maybe the audio description could have been a little bit more descriptive in its tone. Specifically, like with the Ashman, I didn't feel like I really had a grasp on what that looked like until like the dead end of the movie, when there were like claymation. This is the best way I'm going to describe the stop motion characters. Whatever that figurine was, I did not have a good grasp on what that meant. Ashman, I was like, is he ashy? Is he made from, is he a pile of ash? Is he gray? Like, I didn't conceptually understand what Ashman meant. Or what it looked like. And some of the other stuff, I think I understand why it was difficult to describe. Like, after the strangulation of the girl, and then the girl was just back to talking to her again. I mean, I knew what the girl was. Like, that wasn't, I think that's the revealing scene for anybody who needs that answer still for them. But Um, I did kind of question, was because there was like a little bit of the description about was that she was sort of laying there with her eyes, dead eyes, just sort of like staring up. And then like 2 seconds later, she's just like talking and she has her arm around her shoulder. I was like, is the body still there? Did she lean up? Like, where did this? I felt like there was it sudden? You know what I'm saying? Like, does she suddenly appear? Did she change positions? I sort of had questions about that, about how much did you just sit up? How much, I don't know. I mean, when you're blind and you don't know and you don't have friends to ask, you do have questions. And so I just had some questions where I was like, I don't know if that 100% reads in the way um, of that. So mostly I thought this was really strong, uh, especially compared to In a Violent Nature. I thought you took full use of, uh, you know, creating a theme, focusing on every single detail that you possibly could. This is exactly what In a Violent Nature should have been, instead of feeling like just empty silence and a lot of really just generic ways of audio describing. There's some really creative ways of describing things here that I thought were really nice, really specific things too. Um, Things that made my mind try to think of what the horror of it was, like the body that was missing skin and blood, and I was like, so is it mummified? I was trying to picture what like a body would look like that has no skin and no blood. Dried, I guess. I don't know. So sort of those things. I like the fact, the forest was upside down. Uh, Towards the end, there are a lot of things here that will make sense if you've seen the movie. Um, so yeah, I thought the audio description here was just like infinitely better. When I heard it was Micah Grossman at the end, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, it's like, it's like knowing that you're capable of this. It's so wildly, uh, it's just insane. It's just like on one hand you have excellent audio description, and on the other hand you have my worst audio description track of the year. Like, it's bonkers. It is bonkers because this is like I would say one of the stronger tracks of the year. I don't know if it's going to land in my top, but certainly one of my favorite horror film audio description tracks of the year, because there's a lot to describe. These little like stop motion figurines, a lot of horror movie elements, and I think you took advantage of every single thing that you possibly could, and really shaped this world in a way that you didn't for the other film. Bizarre. So as far as stop motion, the movie goes, now that I've mentioned the audio description, um, it just doesn't work for me in the way that you would think it does. I think this is the kind of film that works best as a psychological thriller, where you have a daughter that is sort of living under the sort of the legend that is her mother, maybe like the skill level. She can't quite rise to that level, and we touch on that in the film with when she says, that I don't feel like I have my own voice. So she's just helping her mother finish this project, um, and it's that sort of thing. Like, well, maybe if your mom wasn't there, would you have your own voice? And I think that's what the film explores. But it explores this in this way where I think the director just assumed nobody would assume creepy horror movie child would not be creepy horror movie child. That child was not established in any sort of a way that made me think that that child was real, was there, and wasn't just like a ghost, like haunting, like of some kind. They did a really bad job of establishing that child on any sort of level where I wasn't immediately like, okay, this is like the child from The Omen. And she has no boundaries either. Like, she just comes in and she's like no stranger danger. Like, her parents haven't taught her. Does she have parents? I love that I think it was her name, the main girl, Elle or something like that. She doesn't even ask. She's not even like, where are your parents? How did you get here? How do you live here? Where are you from? Do you have a name? She's literally just like the girl, like the whole film. Like, and that is, it feels like a failure of the script. It feels like the script is just, it's like it doesn't want to offer you too much because it knows where the answers would lead. But a creative writer would have found a way around those while also making it feel like the girl was real. I think you have to make the girl feel real and not like a projection of herself. I always felt like she was like the younger version of herself. And the funny thing about that is she doesn't even feel like she matches the older version. Like the two don't even seem like they're the same person. Like that girl grew up to be, because the young version is so self-assured and assertive. It's almost like it's the version that she wants to be. This girl has a vision. This girl has something she wants to say. But where does she come from? You know, like this, she's just she's just fucking standing in the hallway. Like she's just anyway. um so I don't know, man. And there's some stuff that they play with towards the end where they start getting into body horror, and she like reaches into her leg and she pulls out the flesh, but then the film doesn't need to do anything with it because, like, other than the fact that it's weird for the friends when they walk in, they don't go anywhere with that. She just pulled flesh out of her leg, like, for no reason. Like, she doesn't need it. It doesn't show her, like, trying to use the film doesn't end with her like putting her own skin over all these figurines, or it doesn't actually it's like, oh well, she needs to go hide in the closet because of the Ashman now. It's so like all over the place. It's so all over the place. It's one of those films where I wish like the director had been my friend. I've been like, you have a really good film here. It is right now nowhere to be found. It's all over the place. You have a lot of ideas. Great. I love the ideas. But collectively, they do not make a coherent film. Um, and it's like if somebody was on like speed or Adderall and they're just giving you like tons of ideas for like new business opportunities, right? But like none of them have any connective tissue, and you're just like writing them down and you're like, man, these are all over the place. So open a zoo that's also like for uh, men only, that shows birds flying through because it's screened in, and you're like, what is this zoo? You know, they're just like writing down thoughts. It's like a like word vomit, and then suddenly that word vomit turns into a screenplay, and then you have stop motion. It's like some of these ideas on their own are creepy, and some of them are interesting, but when you put them together in the way that this film has, it's not really a great product at the end. It's got great audio description, but you reveal your hand way too much at the beginning by showing like she's having like the nightmare with all the faces that are like hers. And I think this film would have worked a lot more if you were ratcheting up the tension instead of starting with tension. Like, we should have just been introduced to her from the beginning as a caregiver, because that scene where she's with her mom, and her mom is like, uh, sort of like yelling at her about like positioning the things right. I thought that was a great place to sort of turn up the tension. But in the meantime, we had an opportunity to establish who these characters were, what they were doing. But we had already been given like the first scene in the movie is basically like a nightmare. So I get it, you're a horror movie, but pace yourself, dude. Like, you also want to be a filmmaker. Like, uh, I I don't know. It's really sad because there's something here. There's something to say about stepping, like following in somebody else's footsteps. You know, for all these people, I'm thinking about like all these artists who are children of, and they're trying to find their own voice, and they're trying to create their own thing. You know, and some of them do, and some of them are great, but some of them just constantly live in the shadow, and some of them have to do something completely different. Not everybody can be Sofia Coppola to Francis Ford Coppola as a director. Not everybody can be Jason Reitman to Ivan Reitman. Some of them have to kind of go on their own. Some actors never quite live up to their parents. Dustin Hoffman's kid, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it doesn't always work. And so for those kids who are following in the footsteps of artistry, um, there's definitely something here, but there's no there. And that's probably the biggest failing of stop motion. So, uh, should you watch it? I don't know. Maybe. I would say watch it for the audio description, which is so weird. I'm feeling like very weird on this because it's like on one hand I have another review where I'm like, I really hated this audio description and I thought it was a waste of time. And on the other hand, and that film was hot garbage too. And A Violent Nature is one of the worst films of the year. As a film, it has no establishing purpose or presence or plot, script, lines, characters, anything. It's here like, hey, I'm here for gore. Did you order some gore? Yeah, but you can also have a plot. I mean, this film's gory and it has a semblance of plot. It's not a great one. I mean, it actually is a great one. It just has no idea what to do with it. But yeah, so this was a weird experience for me, but I'm gonna give stop motion a C. I think for the most part it doesn't really work, but I liked certainly like it better than In Violent Nature. But of IFC Shudder's theatrical titles this year, it pales in comparison to like Oddity and Late Night with the Devil, which I thought were just much stronger uh, films and visions from those directors. So anyway, watch stop motion, don't watch stop motion. I don't think your life will be changed either way, but if you're curious about it, it may not deliver exactly on the premise that you wanted to deliver on because it's a bit scattershot. I think my favorite part of the audio description though, and this may seem like a dig at Micah, but my favorite part of the audio description was there's one scene where 'cause she has to fix dinner for her mom. So there's one scene where she's described specifically as cutting up steak. And later on, I think it also references a steak. And then there's like, there are other times where it references meat. And I'm like, can we not tell what it is? I was like, that's gross. It's like in one scene, you're like steak. And the next one, you're like meat. Of what? Of which animal? So I just kind of pictured this like gross piece of meat that like was sort of like a bad school lunch where it's like mystery meat and you're like, I don't know what animal this is. I'm not eating it. And that's where my mind went with that. Is like on in one meal she got steak and in the next meal she got something. Maybe Salisbury steak or something. I don't know, but just something that looked like it came from the meat family. Um, it made me giggle. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And please click like and subscribe. Share this with your friends, especially if they're blind, because basically my whole channel is me being blind and talking about films and reviewing audio descriptions. So why not? And I'll see you guys on the other side.